Welcome to your Employee Code of Conduct online training module. This training will review our code and outline our expectations of all employees. All the information provided in this training and more is available in the Code of Conduct policy and in the Employee Handbook. The Code of Conduct policy also references various specific policies that provide further information on each section. All employees are required to complete this course annually. York Region's Code of Conduct outlines a set of expectations to guide the day-to-day decisions and behaviors of our employees as they deliver programs and services. It not only supports our vision, mission, and values, but also supports the public's requirement for honest, transparent, ethical, and impartial public service. The code applies to all regional employees, regardless of status, including employees working on call. It applies to any location in which the employee is engaged in work-related activities or which has a sufficient connection to the workplace regardless of location. Our Code of Conduct is structured around three main themes: general responsibilities of regional employees, integrity and public confidence, and workplace well-being. Trust and mutual respect are the cornerstones of any relationship between the public and its government. Our Code of Conduct was developed to ensure our employees can uphold exceptional ethical conduct and maintain public confidence. Being entrusted with public funds, we're obligated to ensure the protection and appropriate use of all of our resources and assets. This means all employees must perform their duties in a manner that maintains and enhances public confidence and trust. Our code sets out broad principles and expectations related to this performance and acts as an overarching standard of conduct for various regional practices, policies, and procedures. While broad, the code does not address every possible standard. As an employee, you are encouraged to speak with your supervisor if you have any questions or need clarification. The first theme in the Code of Conduct is all about general responsibilities of regional employees. As an employee, it's your responsibility to be aware of, comply with, and understand your obligations under the Code of Conduct and any related policies. Compliance with the code is a condition of employment with the region. Maintain up-to-date knowledge of the legislation within your areas of responsibility and abide by all applicable laws and regulations. Act with integrity and be honest in your dealings with others, and be responsible and diligent in the performance of your duties. Ensure that all information communicated is as accurate as possible and not withhold or mislead other employees, members of council, and the public, including clients. Promote the health and safety of others and prevent workplace illness, injury, harassment, and violence. Be professional and courteous with coworkers and the public, and resolve any work-related disagreements in a responsible and expeditious manner. Remain current with rules of conduct that form part of professional or technical affiliations. Be professional in your actions and appearance, and courteous and impartial in all of your interactions with clients and the general public. Council fulfills a public representative and policy-making role for the region, its residents, and its business, while regional employees provide advice and deliver the region's services and programs to the public. Employees must treat all members of council with professionalism and courtesy and remain unbiased. You should not favor, nor be seen to be favoring, the interests of one councillor over the interests of council as a whole. If you receive a non-routine inquiry from members of council, please direct them to your department head or obtain your department head's approval prior to contacting members of council. All employees are responsible for proper and ethical use, management, sharing, safeguarding, and disposal of information and data. This responsibility includes compliance with legislation, bylaws, policies, guidelines, and standards related to information, data, and technology. For example, if you have access to confidential or personal information, you can only use or disclose it in accordance with the Code and the provisions of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the Personal Health Information Protection Act. Disclosure of information should only occur when it's necessary and proper in the discharge of the region's functions, or where permitted by law. This includes the protection of any information and data that is considered as internal information relating to regional business. If you're ever unsure about whether information is confidential or personal, refer to the corporate privacy policy and contact your supervisor before disclosing the information. The Corporate Communications Branch is responsible for coordinating all media communications on behalf of the region. Any opinions or information sought by outside groups or organizations, including telephone interviews and site visits, should be channeled through this branch. Obtain approval from your department head prior to speaking publicly on a matter where you may be perceived as representing the region. Of course, you have the freedom to express your opinions on general interest matters, as long as it's clear you're commenting as a private citizen, and do not link your opinion in any way with your role as a regional employee. No statements or actions should ever be based on information that was gained through your employment with the region, unless it's public information that's available to others. The region must ensure that our assets, physical, intellectual information, and technological, are used properly and reflect a balance between obligations to the region and to staff. Regional property should only be used to conduct regional business, must never be used for any activity that could benefit the user financially, must never result in direct expenses being paid for by the region, and must never be used for illegal activities or for any purpose that might be considered offensive. Our electronic networks are corporate assets and are the property of the region. All communications sent over regional networks may be monitored or reviewed without notice. Some legitimate personal uses of regional technology include urgent calls to or from your family, or concerning your family, or calling home to let your family know you'll be working late. To the maximum extent possible, personal use of regional technology, email, and the internet should occur outside of working hours. Any broad solicitation or distribution of non-work-related materials to regional employees on regional premises or during work hours requires prior approval from management of the work unit. Employees may solicit or distribute materials, electronically or otherwise, to their immediate coworkers without prior approval, provided that the activity and materials are not disruptive to the work environment. Employees cannot sell, transfer, or publish computer programs, software, or any other intangible property or rights owned or used by the region during or after their employment. Employees must also ensure that any property in their care as part of their job, including cash, checks, purchasing cards, documents, inventories, and equipment, is properly secured and protected at all times. All employees are prohibited from using any information that's only been made available to regional staff to guide personal investment decisions in real estate, both directly and indirectly. Upon termination of employment, employees are required to return all property back to the region. On top of this, the intellectual property rights to any work produced by an employee through the course of their employment are the exclusive property of the region. Employees shall not, for 1 year after terminating employment, act in opposition to the region or any matters that they or their department were working on at the time of termination of employment. Time to test your knowledge. Throughout this module, you will be asked to complete 2 questions for each theme of the code. These questions will be random, and at least 5 out of the 6 must be answered correctly. That makes the passing score 83%. Let's get started. Employees are required to support and advance the interests of the region and avoid placing themselves in any type of situation where their personal interests are, or appear to be, in conflict with the interests of the organization. Ultimately, every employee is responsible and accountable for using good judgment while exercising their corporate duties. Every employee has a duty to disclose conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest to their supervisor, in writing in a time-sensitive manner, and avoid situations which may present conflicts of interest while dealing with persons or organizations doing business or seeking to do business with the region. Some of the more common areas of potential conflict of interest relate to special treatment, financial interests, and public appearances. Special treatment. An employee shall not use their position to give any person or organization special treatment that would advance either their own interests or any of their relatives or business associates. Financial interests. An employee must not participate in any decision, promotion, or make any recommendations to their supervisor or to council in which they, their relatives, or business associates have any financial interest. Appointments. An employee may not seek or accept appointment, except in the capacity of an employee, to a regional committee, task force, board, or ad hoc committee. Employees will require permission from their department head before accepting appointments to other municipal, provincial, or federal commissions, boards, and committees. Employees who hold positions as board members on community agencies that deal with issues related to their work at York Region should inform the department head of their appointment. Representing others. An employee may not appear before council or a regional committee on behalf of a private citizen other than himself or herself, his or her spouse, his or her parents, or his or her minor children. Public appearances. When it comes to public appearances, employees who are asked to speak publicly to an organization or association as a representative of York Region may only do so if a benefit is gained for the region. When making public appearances, payment for participation is not to be accepted. Above all, remember that any behavior that is or could reasonably be considered a conflict of interest must be declared to your supervisor. Employees can't be involved in or attempt to influence any part of the hiring process when their relative is a candidate, or if any other conflict exists. In fact, the region will not consider an applicant for a position which would come under the direct or indirect supervision or influence of a current employee who is a relative of that applicant. Also, an employee must not be in a supervisory relationship, either directly or indirectly, with a relative or any other employee where a conflict exists. A supervisory relationship is one where one employee has responsibility for and authority over another employee, such as assigning and scheduling duties, influencing compensation and benefits decisions, and conducting performance appraisals. Employees are required to immediately report to their department head the existence or possible creation of a direct or indirect supervisory relationship with a relative, or with any other employee where a perceived conflict may exist. At the region, we're committed to the highest standards of corporate accountability, transparency, responsibility, and integrity, and any allegations of fraud will be investigated to ensure the protection of funds, property, information, and other assets. Fraud includes any act committed that through deceit, falsehood, or any other type of behavior deprives the region of its assets, property, or other resources, or causes the region to act to its own detriment or prejudice. All employees are prohibited from engaging in fraud. If an employee becomes aware of any activities which may be considered fraudulent, they are required to report it immediately to their supervisor, department head, or audit services. Audit services will conduct investigations of any alleged fraudulent activities, and employees are required to cooperate fully with these investigations. Activities that may be considered fraudulent include, but are not limited to, inappropriately obtaining a benefit or avoiding an obligation by illegally obtaining money, including acceptance of bribes, illegal and/or unauthorized possession of regional assets, using regional equipment for private purposes, the use of public position for private gains, either directly or indirectly, using deceit to gain a benefit or advantage by actions such as providing false or incomplete information, falsifying records, or avoiding proper procedures. Also, in relation to the region's group benefits program, submitting false claims for reimbursement or disability benefits, colluding with another party, or defraud the group benefits program. Profiting from the proceeds of the group benefits program, either directly or indirectly. All employees are responsible for immediately reporting any suspected fraud, theft, breach of trust, and any other wrongdoings. A breach of trust includes an act or omission in connection with the execution of an employee's duty, which benefits him or her personally, either directly or indirectly. Employees will never be penalized or disciplined for reporting a suspected incident of fraud in good faith, or for participating in an investigation involving fraudulent activity. Any form of retaliation against a complainant or witness will not be tolerated at York Region. Employees must make work-related decisions based on an impartial and objective assessment of each situation, free from the influence of gifts, favors, hospitality, or entertainment. This means employees aren't allowed to accept or solicit gifts, hospitality, or any other benefits that could influence or be perceived as influencing their judgment and performance of official duties. The only exception to this is related to soliciting for a charitable donation, for example, for the region's United Way campaign. Employees may accept common expressions of courtesy, as long as they don't cause suspicion about their objectivity and impartiality, or compromise the integrity of the region. These types of gifts should be minimal, under $25, infrequent, and occur only in exceptional circumstances. Employees must ensure that any outside employment or business undertaken, paid or volunteer, does not negatively impact their effectiveness at the region, influence their judgment, contravene any regional policies or procedures, or provide any economic advantage as a result of confidential information gained from employment with the region. The outside activity must not conflict with the regional hours of work, scheduled overtime, or standby provisions, interfere with their performance of regional duties, use confidential regional information, involve work that is inspected, approved, or regulated by the region, compete with regional services, or use the region's time or resources, such as photocopiers, stationery, computers, email, internet, vehicles, cell phones, and so on. Any employee who is or is considering becoming involved in outside employment activity and has reason to believe that they may contravene one of the above criteria must declare this to their supervisor in writing, outlining the nature of such work and the possible conflict. Where a conflict exists, employees may be required to stop participating in the activity as a condition of continued employment, transfer to other duties, or choose between continued employment at the region and the outside activity. To ensure public trust in the region, employees must be and appear to be both personally impartial and free from undue political influence in the exercise of their official duties. Political involvement in municipal, provincial, or federal levels of government is permitted on the clear understanding that employees are acting personally and not as representatives of York Region. Regional employees wishing to run for regional council within York Region must request and obtain a leave of absence without pay, starting no later than nomination day and ending on voting day, and resign if elected to office. Also, employees engaged in political activities must take care to separate their personal and professional activities, and must ensure their political activities do not interfere with their ability to perform duties objectively. occur during working hours. Use regional assets, resources, or property, or involve the distribution or display of notices, posters, or similar material in support of a particular candidate or political party at regional work sites or on regional property. An employee's decision to support a candidate or political party financially is a personal decision. The final theme is focused on maintaining a positive atmosphere for employees to work and thrive. We're committed to providing a work environment that is free from any form of unlawful discrimination or harassment, and promoting one that respects the dignity, self-worth, and human rights of everyone. Discrimination and harassment may be related to race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, sex, sexual orientation, age, record of offenses, marital status, family status, disability, gender identity, or gender expression. Discrimination may also include a poisoned work environment, differential treatment, and sexual harassment. No form of harassment will be tolerated, whether it involves employees or members of the public. Employees must ensure that their personal conduct within the workplace and elsewhere does not adversely affect their ability to perform their official duties, the ability of other employees to perform their duties, or public confidence in the region or in the public sector. We're all responsible for ensuring the workplace is free of harassment and that our conduct and comments are respectful. Management also has the responsibility to take all reasonable steps to prevent the development, escalation, or reoccurrence of harassment and discrimination. Every complaint or incident of harassment or discrimination will be treated as serious and may be investigated as appropriate in the circumstances. For further information, please see the region's Workplace Harassment and Discrimination Policy, Workplace Health, Safety, and Wellness Policy, and Preventing and Managing Violence in the Workplace Policy. Employees must be able to perform all of their workplace duties in a safe and productive manner. This means employees cannot consume or be impaired by alcohol, cannabis, illegal drugs, prescription drugs, or over-the-counter drugs while working and need to remain alert, productive, and use sound judgment while at work. Employees who believe they may be impaired and are unable to perform their workplace duties in a safe and productive manner must inform their supervisor immediately. Also, if you observe or reasonably believe that another employee is impaired, you must immediately inform your supervisor. Employees shall not purchase alcohol, cannabis, or illegal drugs while driving a regional vehicle, or while wearing anything that identifies them as a York Region employee. This includes York Region ID cards and applies even when employees are off-duty. We recognize that addiction to alcohol, cannabis, illegal drugs, prescription drugs, or over-the-counter drugs may be a disability under the Human Rights Code. Any employee who may be experiencing related problems is expected to contact the Region's Employee Health Unit. These rules apply to all employees at all locations where employees exercise employment duties. It also applies to all business, charitable, recreational, social, and other special events, whether held on regional property or elsewhere, both during or outside of business hours. To summarize, as a York Region employee, you are required to adhere to the standards of behavior outlined in the Code of Conduct and any related policies. Seek clarification from your supervisor or department head if you're unsure about any of the information included in the Code of Conduct. Disclose breaches of the Code of Conduct to your immediate supervisor or department head in writing. Cooperate fully and honestly in any internal investigation. Understand that violations under the Code of Conduct may result in disciplinary action up to and including dismissal and legal prosecution. By keeping these points in mind at all times, employees can continue to positively contribute to York Region, enhancing public confidence and trust while maintaining a positive work environment for everyone.